It's World War II, and the stakes are high. Your government needs something new, something secret, something to help win the war. Do you invent a superweapon? An advanced piece of communication tech? Maybe a bomb that makes a big boom? Well, if your answer is yes, then you may be the United States government, and that was exactly what they were trying to do during the war. This was an era of accelerated research with scientists working in isolation to try and solve some of the most complex problems imaginable. One of the most famous scientists of the day was Nikola Tesla. He proposed theories that would change the way we use energy forever. His work with alternating current changed the way we power our homes, and he spent much of his life researching electromagnetism. This is where the story takes a turn for the weird. The U.S. government wanted something special, something from the cutting edge of science to give them the upper hand. They wanted to know if Tesla's theories could be used to make a ship invisible to radar, undetectable by the enemy, a ghost on the high seas. Now, you might be asking yourself, how does a ship become invisible? Can it become invisible? How does physics work? We're getting there. Stick with me. But let's keep going. So this is where we meet the USS Eldridge. This is a destroyer escort built at the end of World War II. It was designed for speed. It was 289 meters long, had a top speed of 30 knots, which is about 55 kilometers per hour, and packed a pretty solid punch for the time period. 2 5-inch guns, 8 40mm cannons, and 12 machine guns. But the Eldridge wasn't built for fighting wars. It was built for becoming invisible. The Eldridge was chosen because of its metal hull. This meant it would respond well to magnetic fields, which is important for scientific purposes. This would also make it easier for any electromagnetic experiments to be picked up by the ship's own radar system. The goal of these experiments was to create invisibility via manipulation of the ship's magnetic field. In theory, this would allow it to disappear from radar. It's October 28, 1943, when the Eldridge set sail from Philadelphia for what would be a very unusual voyage. On board the ship are 2 giant generators and some electromagnetic coils. These devices will manipulate the magnetic field around the ship, and according to legend, they worked perfectly. A green fog began to form around the ship. Some reports say it looked like ectoplasm, but it was probably just a really concentrated magnetic field. According to eyewitness accounts, the ship began to shake violently. It felt like an earthquake. Then everything went quiet. The tremors stopped, and the ship disappeared from view. It was invisible. Now, this is where things get really strange. Reports say the Eldridge suddenly reappeared, but not near Philadelphia and not even in the same state. The ship was now in Norfolk, Virginia, 600 kilometers away. As you can imagine, this caused quite the stir. Here's what we know: that the ship did appear in Norfolk. There is a report of it docking there from a witness who saw the ship arrive. However, this report says the ship arrived the day before it left Philadelphia. Is this possible? Who knows? Science doesn't care about feelings. When the ship disappeared from Philadelphia, there were people on board. What happened to them? Some reports say the crew were disoriented and nauseous when the Eldridge vanished. Some say they were fused into the structure of the ship. Some say they vanished entirely. And some say they went mad. It's unclear what happened. But we do have letters. After the alleged incident, the main witness of the event, Carl Allen or Carlos Allen, depending on who you ask, sent letters to the author of a book called The Case for the UFO, Morris K. Jessup. In the letter, he describes the events leading up to the experiment itself, and the aftermath. He writes about how the crew of the Eldridge were given no warning that the experiment would take place, how they felt a strong odor of ozone as the process began, how the ship seemed to rise out of the water, and how the crew heard noises like a jet engine. These letters are the strongest evidence we have for the event taking place. And Mr. Jessup was so convinced of their authenticity that he sent copies of them to the U.S. Navy, hoping they could shed some light on the mystery. But that didn't happen. The Navy said it knew nothing about any of this. Okay, so let's talk science. Is there any truth to any of this? Did Nikola Tesla invent invisibility? Did the Eldridge vanish from sight? Well, it's complicated. The idea of invisibility cloaks has fascinated humanity for years. Scientists are actually quite close to making it a reality. But this isn't quite that technology. Tesla did indeed work on ideas that could bend light around objects, but this was never finished. It did, however, lead him to discover something called the unified field theory. This is a concept that aims to unite gravity and electromagnetism into one single framework. Albert Einstein actually worked on this too, but never finished it, so that's still a work in progress. But here's the kicker. By manipulating a magnetic field, you can actually degauss a ship. This means you can remove its magnetic signature, confusing compass readings. This was a real technology developed in World War II. The Eldridge was probably doing something similar. It was testing ways to avoid detection, but this doesn't mean it became invisible. There are a few other theories, but none of them make much sense. The idea of teleportation or time travel has no scientific basis. It's a fun idea, but there's no evidence that either of those things exist, let alone that they were invented in World War II. Finally, there's the idea that this was a psychological experiment. This seems likely, but there's no evidence of it. Sure, if you created a powerful enough magnetic field, it would probably mess with your mind a bit, but it wouldn't make the ship disappear. So, what's the verdict? We don't know. Officially, the U.S. Navy has denied the experiment took place. However, some of the Eldridge's logs from this period are missing, or have been heavily altered, leaving room for speculation. If the experiment did take place, it was probably connected to Project Rainbow, a conspiracy theory that claims the U.S. military was developing anti-gravity technology during World War II. Proponents of this theory believe that the military was attempting to reverse-engineer German technology captured at the end of the war. They believe that this tech could have been used for things like anti-gravity weapons, UFOs, and even time travel. However, this brings us back to Carl Allen, the alleged main witness of the event. He was questioned by the U.S. Navy after he first reported the incident, but they weren't convinced. They treated him badly, and he eventually gave up. After he wrote those letters to Morris Jessup, though, his story began to change. He began to add details that made the story more fantastical, like spaceships and aliens. So, it's possible that Carl Allen made up the whole thing, or at least embellished it heavily. Or maybe, just maybe, he was telling the truth, and the Navy was covering it up. So, here's the deal. If you want to believe this happened, you're going to have to ignore a lot of science. And if you want to believe it didn't happen, you're going to have to ignore a lot of eyewitness accounts. So, what do you think? Do you think this was a massive cover-up? Maybe a classified experiment that went wrong? Or do you think it was all made up? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more similar content.